It's a twister. It's a twister. That's right. Today we are talking about twisters, fiber optic cables, and would Jason accept a kiss from me? All this and more on today's How Did This Get Made? Last Looks. Hit the theme!
Just when you thought it was safe, this time it's personal. It's hot. It's summer. It's sharks. Hot shark summer.
Hello, all you mama megalodons and elderly male tea drinkers. How are you? I'm your host, Paul Scheer, and welcome to How Did This Get Made? Last Looks, where you, the listener, get to voice your issues on Shark Attack 3, Megalodon, a movie that Discord user Gray's T-Hound thinks should have had the tagline, "We all die on a yellow submarine." Or should I read it like, "We all die on a yellow submarine"? I don't know why I put a British accent on that. Anyway, people, here's the deal. Today, we are going to do the normal stuff, corrections and omissions. Plus, we're going to give you a exclusive deleted scene from Shark Attack 3. But, even more excitingly, we're going to be welcoming writer, podcaster Jordan Morris to the show. Jason and I are going to have a chat with him about everything. What has he been up to since our Skyline episode? We're going to get the inside scoop on what it was like to be in All About Steve. Plus, we're going to talk about his graphic novel Youth Group and get into, we get into a lot. We get into ska bands in a little bit. Anyway, that will be coming up in just a little bit. Plus, we will reveal the movie for next week's episode. But a first thing first. Well, it's not even first. It's like fifth at this point. A big shout out to the Action Jackson 5. I love that name. That was a truly electric opening celebrating our Hot Shark Summer edition of the show. In a couple of weeks, you're going to see Hot Shark Summer taking over 42nd Street as our How Did This Get Made billboard is going to go up, celebrating all the shark movies that we're doing all summer long. And here's the thing. I love opening themes, but you know what? Maybe it's time for us to settle down and pick one. We're going to pick our favorite one for a limited time, and that will be our new opening theme. But don't despair, because you can still send in themes for corrections and omissions. You win nothing songs and just chats, okay? Send them to howdidthisgetmade@earwolf.com, but keep them short. 15 to 20 seconds is best. Now, what's going on with How Did This Get Made? Well, we'll be back in New York City on Friday, November 15th for the New York Comedy Festival. Tickets are available right now. Use the code NYCF, okay? Just go to hdtgm.com for the ticket purchase link. Again, that pre-sale code is NYCF. Also, Jason wanted me to let you know that season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy is now available on Netflix. So if you've never watched it, because you don't have Paramount Plus, you can check it out on Netflix. And guess what? What's that? Oh, it's just a twister. How do I know? Because I'm in the movie Twisters. Very small part. I'm not going to tell you when. Well, I can tell you when. The very last scene. So check out Twisters this week. And while you're waiting on the line for hopefully sold out shows, as I enter into my summer movie era, why don't you bring a copy of Joyful Recollections of Trauma? You can also be listening to it. And I can also personalize the book for you. Just go to my website, find out where I've left signed books, how you can get a personalized signed book. And if you haven't bought the book, why not, people? Why not? No, it's been amazing. I've been so overwhelmed. Thank you for all your reviews on Goodreads. That has been amazing. And I'm giving away a free book on Storygraph, which is like a competitor to Goodreads. So check that out as well. All right. Last week, we talked at length about Shark Attack 3 Megalodon. We had questions, and we might have even missed a few things. Here's your chance to set us straight. Fact check us, if you will. It is now time for corrections and omissions.
Corrections and omissions. What we miss? Corrections and omissions. What we miss? Corrections and omissions. What we miss?
Thank you, John Cohen, for that theme song. Let's go to the Discord. Sean McBee, how is it that when the Mama Meg got blown up, John Barrowman wasn't floating in a giant sea of gore? There wasn't even a hint of red in that water, as if the torpedo, which had been fired from a sub that would definitely not be equipped with torpedo tubes, just atomized it. You know what? Well, the answer is CGI, but no one has brought up that sub would not be able to have torpedo tubes. I want to give you points for that, Sean. Maddie Ice writes, I started watching Shark Attack 3 Megalodon and immediately saw a film by David Worth. I thought, why is that name so familiar? And then it hit me. David Worth was the cinematographer on Bloodsport and even gave Bloodsport a 5-star review on Amazon. He was also the cinematographer on Never Too Young to Die. So this man is How Did This Get Made royalty. You know what? You made me remember that review. And here's a little clip of me reading his second opinion review for Bloodsport. So enjoy.
This one is probably my favorite one to date. 5 stars by David Worth, and it goes something like this. Of course I'm going to give Bloodsport a glowing review. I was a cinematographer. Jean-Claude Van Damme's breakout film, and I was thrilled to be a creative part of it. It worked out so well that 2 years later, in 1988, I was once again back in Hong Kong with JCVD as the director of Kickboxer. The budgets of both of these films combined were less than $5 million. They still do a ton of business worldwide, became martial arts classics, and launched the career of JCVD. Not bad for the price. 5 stars.
Like, we really think about that. He's on Amazon writing reviews for movies he's worked on.
You know what? That is why when I rated Twisters on Letterboxd, I gave it 4 stars. I'm not going to give it the full 5. And I have to say, many people really complimented me for that. So there you go. Dr. Guts 1003 writes, this film was produced by New Image, a production company that was founded in part by 3 former associates of Canon Films. New Image went through a few name changes over the years, but eventually became Millennium Films, which produced other How Did This Get Made films, including The Wicker Man, 88 Minutes, and Drive Angry. Okay, Dr. Guts with the facts. So what we're basically saying is this is like the Miramax of Canon, like the indie arm. Okay. We got one phone call, so I'm not even going to make it like, let's go to the phones. I'm just going to say, John from Massachusetts, what up?
Hey, Paul, it's John from down by the water in relatively shark-free Marshfield, Massachusetts. You mentioned that the end of Shark Attack, that last line is Megala who? And I think you would agree with me that they missed a perfectly good opportunity to have that last line be Megalodon. Love the show. Kiss Jason for me.
I will not kiss Jason. No, I will. By the way, I'm not weird. I mean, Jason won't let me kiss him is what I guess I'm wanting to say. Anyway, yeah, you fucking nailed it. I guess that's a Megalodon. I like that. I like that for the end of the movie. And it just goes to show you how much time they spent on the script. Let's go back to the Discord. Corgi Herder comes after me. Paul commented that fiber optic cables wouldn't need electricity. And while that is true, the cables themselves don't need electricity. Undersea fiber optic cables need repeaters to amplify their signal, so they actually do carry electricity. Now, there have been recorded incidents of sharks and other sea creatures biting cables, and this goes back to the 19th century when they were laying down telegraph lines across the Atlantic, and sharks were actually attracted to these lines because of the electric current. The film has a kernel of truth, so that's in there, but these incidents are so less common today because cables are better armored. Than the standard practice now is to bury these cables a few feet in the sea bed. Well, Corgi Herder, you came after me, so you know what? I'm taking you off the list. You're not going to get the winner of the week. I'm sorry, but when you come for the king of corrections and omissions, which I guess is me, unless it's too good, no chance to win. JXL writes, along with being a sloppy beat-by-beat remake of Jaws and having Captain Pendeo rip off that bit from Seinfeld where Kramer steals the other folks' lobster traps. Captain Pendeo's story arc either intentionally or inadvertently rips off Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China in that we follow him around, and while he is the lead character, he is completely incidental to all the action sequences taking place. JXL, I say nay! Anyone with a line like he has about what he wants to do when he's so wired, that honestly, we don't need him to do any more than that. He did do something. All right, so many great corrections and omissions this week, but there can only be one, and that one is the one caller, John from Massachusetts, with a brand new end line to Megalodon. John, you win, and you get this amazing song from Garrett Parker.
People of Earth. You win nothing.
Thank you, Garrett, for that song. Remember, if you want to submit an alt movie tagline or chime in with your own thoughts about the latest episode, hit up the Discord at discord.gg/HDTGM or call us at 619-PAULASK. Coming up after the break, Jason joins the show for a chat with Jordan Morris. And as always, I will announce next week's movie. But first, I want to close the books on Shark Attack 3 by playing a few more of the amazing Second Opinion songs our audience sang at the live show. Take a listen.
And now it's time for Second Opinions.
Hi, I'm Ethan, and I don't have this accent, so bear with me. A megalodon is an aquatic dinosaur. It's a gigantic specimen of what is known as shark life. They're attracted to leaky electricity cables that run straight through what is known as shark life. John's got great instinct, so he gets in a submarine and fires a torpedo at himself. He loves every bit of it. Shark life. Why is everyone so horny? You should cut down on your sex life, mate. Have a cold shower. They get eaten. Everyone's eaten. And the shark keeps changing size every time it bites. 5 stars.
Amazing. Thank you, Ethan.
Great work.
And now it's time for Second Opinions.
Grace? Sharks in this house, there's some sharks in this house, there's some sharks in this house, there's some sharks in this house. Big old fish, bear 'em in the dish, wet ass meglo, you wish you were a bitch. Yeah, I get 5 stars on Amazon for this wet ass meg. Grab a bucket full of chum for this wet ass meg. Now that's a second opinion on this wet ass meg. Ow.
Amazing. And
I'm
great
speechless.
length.
I'm
Great
speechless.
length.
That was the perfect length. That is.
And that was so good.
Now it's time for Second Opinions.
My name is Simon, and I'm representing the balcony.
They like them.
Please feel free to join in if you know the refrain. Shark attack, do-do-do-do-do-do. Captain Jack, do-do-do-do-do-do. But 5 stars, do-do-do-do-do-do. Probably not. Baby sub, do-do-do-do-do-do. Random church, do-do-do-do-do. Random boobs, do-do-do-do-do-do. Sharks don't growl. Barrowman, do-do-do-do-do-do. Makes cat come, do-do-do-do-do-do. With her tongue, do-do-do-do-do-do. He's so wired. Deep blue sea, do-do-do-do-do-do. Is more for me, do-do-do-do-do. Or Meg 3, do-do-do-do-do-do. With the Staith. It's up to you, do-do-do-do-do-do. With your review, do-do-do-do-do-do. Megala who, do-do-do-do-do-do. Second Opinions!
Yes! Oh
Wow.
my gosh!
Great job.
Simon hits it out of the park 2 nights in a row.
I'm shocked we went through all of them before someone did that song.
I know, me
I know,
too.
and I didn't know how much I needed it, actually.
We got Brit pop songs, we got
Yeah.
hip hop songs, and we got that at the end. I was certain that would be every one.
That's great.
But you know what? He closed it out just like that great line closed out that scene.
People, Are you checking out our Matinee Monday? I am sure you've noticed that every Monday we are releasing shark-themed movies because we are in the middle of hot shark summer. I mean, just go with us here. Anyway, we are closing out our Sharknado trilogy. Next week was Sharknado 3. This week we had Sharknado 2. So keep on checking out these replays of classic episodes every Monday. And now, without any further ado, a little Just Chat with Jason and special guest Jordan Morris. If you don't know Jordan, he co-hosts the popular podcast Jordan Jesse Go. He also wrote the Eisner-nominated graphic novel Bubble, and his second graphic novel, a YA horror comedy called Youth Group, just came out earlier this week. To play us into today's Just Chat, here's a new ditty from John Cohen. John, two themes. Love it. Jordan, welcome back to the show. You might remember Jordan from our Skyline episode.
Or you might remember him from his star turn in All About Steve.
Thank you. Yes. Oh God, that was a dream project. Love Sandy. We've been looking for another project to do together. Do you want me to do my famous line from All About Steve?
Yes,
Jordan,
do your line.
That's one of the many reasons that the audience has been clamoring to have you back on. Please, can you deliver it?
Of course. Yeah. I know why you asked me on. Okay. Yeah. And I'm happy to do it. Excuse me. You need unique New York. Okay.
It's so funny when...
that wasn't it. Those were my vocal warm-ups.
That wasn't the line. Those was warm-ups.
Those were my vocal warm-ups.
So I thought...
Wow, Paul.
Forgot.
Very rude.
Here's the
very
line.
rude. Oh, sorry. This is Jordan's process.
Thank you. Yes, I'm warming up my
This is his
instrument.
craft.
This glue is making me high.
Wow. And it's so interesting because you've now been living with it for so long. It's interesting to hear how the line has changed in your understanding and your interpretation.
It's kind of like watching an actor revisit a stage role. Many years have passed, yet you bring something new to it, but also something that we love about the original performance.
That reading, though, also sounded like it was informed a little bit by Fred Schneider of the B-52s. It sounded a little bit Love Shacky. This glue is making me high.
And bring your glue box money.
The glue trap is a little
old trap where we will chew our legs off.
It's a song for mosquitoes and flies. Like it's the Weird Al version of it. Just see them all stuck on a glue trap. Mm-hmm. Now, Jordan, since you last visited us, you were already a staple of one of the best podcasts out there, Jordan Jesse Go, still going on, still going strong.
I feel like that's a podcast, Jordan. I feel like I heard you on podcasts before we started podcasting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How long has that show been going? At least 16 years.
Yeah,
right?
16 or 17 years at this point. Yeah. We were the first podcast, much like the Velvet Underground, playing CBGBs.
Yes,
we inspired everyone.
Yes. Andy Warhol put you guys together.
Yes. Exactly. And we started podcasting early. Jesse Thorne and I, we did college radio together.
Is this Sound of Young America days?
Yeah. So our college radio show on
That's the first time I ever heard you was on the Sound of Young America when I lived in Brooklyn. Got to be 1999. No, 2000 maybe?
Yeah, that tracks. It was,
a little later than that, but
It broadcasted all of 37 feet in Santa Cruz, California, but it did have a very early, real player streaming component to it. So I think, it's possible you could have listened. And we were just kind of goofing around and interviewing comedians we liked. We were comedy nerds, so...
Well, I remember it was a big deal because Human Giant was featured on The Sound of Young America.
Yeah.
That was kind of, I think, after the Santa Cruz days, but it was also in this zone where it was like, that was our Terry Gross, right? It's like, if you guys approve of this, then we are in.
Yeah. So that was kind of like how we started, goofing around via audio. And yeah, when Jesse and I graduated, we moved to LA, and he had the kind of beautiful idea to do our old college radio show as a podcast, and there just weren't a lot of them. It was a very like niche, very nerdy world. It was like us and Mac Tips and Harry Potter fan fiction, and that's it. Like those were the podcasts.
Wow.
So yeah, and we're still chugging along,
And
modestly popular.
But here's what I'll say. That show, legendary. But now you come back to our show as a 2-time Eisner nominated writer, right? Your graphic novel, which I love, Bubble.
Yes.
And also you've been writing for Archie Comics, The Chilling Adventures as well,
Yes,
right?
that's true.
You are now, this is, I think we all have multiple things that we focus on and do. And I feel like you've really been embraced by this world. You've written great stuff, but it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I know Jason's a big comics guy. Paul, but you've also written comics too, right?
I have, yes. I've written comics for Marvel, and I also wrote some for DC, and I wrote one independent comic, which was the hardest thing that I had to do because we were dealing with an Italian artist. And the book was a funny book.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on these Italians.
Oh,
like
these
Mike Mitchell
Italians.
of the Doughboys says. Like Mike Mitchell says, you can't trust the Italians. You just can't.
Why are these characters waving their hands everywhere?
But that was the hardest thing. I really loved, it was just hard to communicate. But I feel like you have this amazing relationship with, was it Bowen McCurdy, right? Or Bones,
The
right?
artist on my new book is called Youth Group. It is a YA horror comedy about teenage exorcists. Kind of based on my experience growing up in like a goofy Bible study where a, youth pastor with a bunch of tattoo sleeves like turns the chair around backwards and tells you about a pretty cool guy named JC who was kind of the first punk rocker, if you ask me. So yeah, I had one of those guys, and I'd kind of always wanted to write about that weirdo little world. And like, of course, I love horror comedies. I love Shaun of the Dead and Buffy, and thought it'd kind of be fun to, mash in some horror specifics into that weird little world. And the book is Youth Group, and the artist is Bowen McGurdy, who does a great horror comedy series called Spectre Inspectors. That has some kind of similar demon fighting, exorcism themes in it. And they just did such a beautiful job with the book. It's a lot of like character-based comedy, and they're teens, so they're like having like big teen feelings all the time. And like Bowen's characters are just super expressive, but you really like them. The style is kind of like anime meets early Disney. It's just gorgeous.
And this is just so people know, because maybe not everybody listening is comic savvy or anything like that. This is a graphic novel. This is when it's out, we can read the whole thing. It's not something that comes every month or anything like that, right? This is the book. So get it now and you can read the whole story. It's not an ongoing thing. It's not it's not like a little floppy comic.
Beginning, middle, and
issue.
End. You don't need to know anything going into it. You don't need to have read, Detective Comics 835 to understand what's going on.
But
the introduction of I'm just kidding. Wouldn't it be great if I knew a specific about Detective Comics 835?
That would have been an amazing poll.
When Azrael dies?
The introduction of Huntress?
But I will say that what is really kind of cool about it for Jason and I, who are very vocal Buffy fans, it reminds me of Buffy in a way, like this book. It's got this kind of fun, like what looks like a normal on the surface youth group is tinged with this like demonic possessions and exorcisms, and there's a seedy underworld to a very nice looking outside.
Yeah, and something, and it is set in the 90s, I should mention. So, there's puka shell necklaces and giant pants, and a few references to Smash Mouth in there. But I mean,
there's pagers. There's pagers in there. There's pagers tech.
There's pagers, yes.
Was
there's
that,
some pager
I'm
humor.
curious, Jordan, was that an effort to kind of dial into your experiences from your childhood so you could play in that? Or were you trying to be like, I don't want there to be phones and GPS and all of the technological stuff that mystery solving in modernity is really just about tech versus in the 90s, if you wanted to solve a mystery, you're still talking about shoe leather. You got to walk around, you got to do a stakeout, you got to do it practically and physically.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know at this point, like cell phones and the internet are just like awful for storytelling. It creates so many plot holes. It's interesting. So when I first pitched the book to Callista Brill over at First Second, they're the publisher of the book, great publisher, love all their books. The pitch was set in modern day, so everybody had cell phones and there was the internet and stuff like that. But Callista's like, hey, I want to do this, but why don't you set it in the 90s? I think she could tell that, like, I was drawing on a lot of really personal specifics. And it was interesting reading it back the first time I got the pencils back. That's kind of the rough sketch of the book that you read for the first time. I was like, oh, wow, this is really personal. And I didn't really know it, but I was just putting in a lot of my childhood anxiety and the feelings I was having as a kid whose family was kind of falling apart. And so I just put in a lot of real world stuff. And when I read it back, I'm like, oh, wow, this is very, very confessional. I even kind of thought about your book recently, Paul, because you're a funny guy who makes everybody laugh on this show and all these other places, but you have some super personal stuff that's out there now. And I feel a little bit like that as a guy who, just wants to do funny stuff, but now I have this little bit of me that people can read about that is pretty vulnerable.
Well, I think it's always the hallmark of something that's really, that goes the extra level, which is sort of it's not this generic, you're not writing about youth groups because you've just read about them or you've been you know this world, these things, that personal element to it, these things that are going on. I think you can tell, and that's why I think people like this so much, is because it's what makes it incredibly unique. It's yes, you might have heard of these things before, but it's going to be told through an eye that is incredibly special. And
well, it also it rings just more true. And you can, when you're just oh, wouldn't it be funny if I did a story blank?
Yeah.
It is actually oh, let me, they always say, write what you know or whatever, but the specificity that you can bring to an even loosely autobiographical story, it are the specifics that people will gravitate to rather than just the manufactured stuff. I feel like those little kernels that feel real or that feel authentic or that feel lived in, those are the things that I feel become the immersive elements of any story.
But now let me ask you this, because this is the question I've been thinking about this entire time. You're telling this story, and I love the style of this. I think Bones did an amazing job of this, but Bones is 26, right? And I imagine her version of the 90s is she even born at this point? Probably, at the tail end of the 90s, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. In the back of the book, there's a little spread from the yearbook that Bones drew, and it's gorgeous and it's funny. And the publisher had the great idea to stick actual photos of us in there in the little yearbook montage.
Yeah.
And so I found these goofy photos of myself from high school where I've got a giant wallet chain that's down to my knee. I am wearing a ska band t-shirt.
What band?
Oh, Save Ferris.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, you have to. One of the great OC ska bands.
Yes.
And just being kind of an embarrassing drama kid. And Bones just has a photo of them as a baby.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And so part of our creative process, before we started working on it, Bones asked me, would you send me playlists for each of the characters? YouTube.
Oh, I love that.
And so we have a stoner character, and his playlist is all Sublime, 311, Smash Mouth. We have kind of a gothy, mopey characters, so it's Nine Inch Nails, Tool, Deftones. And so, it's a good way to get into a character's head, but also because we were doing it on YouTube, you get to see all that fashion. You get to see the giant pants. You get to see the wallet change. You get to see the Birkenstocks with socks. Just all the.
That's interesting. I love that, and
I love great technique. Yeah,
I love that building the playlists. That's a blast. Have you published the playlists?
No, it's a good idea. We should do that. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to steal your idea, Jason. Yes, I'm going to find a way to put the playlist.
Please, it's not even my idea. That's just that to me. I would love to read a book that had some that to me had a component that I could be like, wait a minute, I could put on a soundtrack for this book while I read it. Fuck yeah, I love that.
Something I discovered. So we have a character who's kind of a like peppy, like class president type, kind of an Elle Woods type character, and like her playlist has on, like pop music. It's got Spice Girls and Hanson, and I'm like, oh man, Hanson fucking rocked, didn't they? And I was a punk kid, so I could never admit that, but Hanson rocks. I loved revisiting Hanson. I was so wrong.
That's like
then.
great pop music from that era. That's like you can't. That's like incontestable.
Well, what's so interesting to me? I feel like when you're in a school environment, you draw these lines of who you are by what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like. Yeah. And I've been really interested to watch my sons. My one son is 10, the other is 7, and a lot of my 10-year-old's friends, unprompted, will say, Taylor Swift sucks. Like, it is a rallying cry that I've heard so many times. And my son is like, I like her. I'm not a big fan, but I like her, right? So he's not like on the she sucks bandwagon. Right. But I'm also thinking like, oh, it's going to be interesting for these kids to look back and go, oh, I might have been wrong about that, right? Like I look back at Hanson, I'm like, oh, Hanson seems dumb. It seemed dumb to me. We're roughly the same age. It's like, but you hear bop now, and some here, oh, this is like this is good. There is talent here, right?
And that's the thing is like I feel like you get stuck in I'm a punk ska kid, or I'm a, what I was an alternative indie kid before that, tipped, into Nirvana and becoming popular and stuff like that. I loved the alternative, the stuff that I could hear on college radio or whatever. But then, and so like something like popular top 40, if Taylor Swift existed then, I would have been like, oh no, I don't like Taylor Swift. Not because I didn't like her music, but because she personified like top 40 radio.
Right.
Well,
now here's the thing, and I think we should all do this. Save Ferris is playing out a lot, by the way, this summer, big time. They're out and about. Like they're like tour dates nonstop.
I could see them being on one of those tours that's like there's 12 bands, they each play for half an hour, and they all had like some modicum of success in that era, and so now they all gather together.
I mean, this is the tour that you can go see here in Los Angeles. Goldfinger, Save Ferris, Unwritten Law, and Urethane. I know what you're talking about, but not like it's,
no, that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah,
it's interesting that they are.
Jordan, will you be going?
Oh, to that? Hell yeah. Oh, what a day. That's, yeah, absolutely.
But I do love all that sort of stuff. I think what's kind of interesting with your book is it will have that kind of cross-section. Like, yes, if you're people of our age, you're going to enjoy the book on a certain level. But I think one of the coolest things is working with somebody like Bones to, I think, bring in today's 14 to 18-year-old, like, that group. Because that's a big audience. And I think it's the way that
going after that, you mentioned Buffy, but going after that Stranger Things, going after that audience that is tuned into scary, spooky, coming of age stories. You mentioned earlier, all the Afterlife with Archie, Thrilling Adventures of Sabrina, like all the, what's forgive me, Jordan, you'll know the guy's name who runs the Archie imprint now, who does all of
Roberto Aguirre-Sacca.
Thank you. Who's done such an incredible job with Francisco Francavilla and all sorts of great artists and writers doing wild takes on the Archie stories.
Well, that's like who did the Flintstone ones that are like that I really like?
That's Mark Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Russell beat us for the Eisner, but well deserved.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. How dare you, Mark Russell?
But you're going to be also going to some cons, right?
I am, yeah. I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con. And
where are you at in that? Are you going to be in the Artist Alley? Where are you going to be?
Are you in? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Artist
actually,
Alley, baby.
Why don't I get my panel information?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
I'm assuming Hall H.
Yes, Hall H. I will be moderating the Fantastic Four panel.
Yes,
and slipping in references to my book when I can. No, I'm doing a great panel on July 26th. It is called Using Fantasy and Graphic Novels to Understand the Real World. And I'll be doing that with Luyan Pham, Vera Bragosi, and Jean Lewin Yang, who I think is one of the greatest comics makers out there today. So yeah, we're going to be doing that 1 o'clock, room 23 ABC. So I hope people will come.
Nice. I'm curious, Jordan, who are you? Because I've been to many cons, and I always try and go and walk through Artist Alley. Who at this point either have you been or are you excited to see or meet, like, in that comics world? Like when I met Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz at New York Comic Con like 12 years ago, I lost my mind, just because those are the guys that to me were my childhood. Like the New Mutants, the Demon Bear saga, like that era of comics is so massive to me. So, but like, are there people like that for you that you've now gotten to interact with, or that you see and are like, oh no, I can't, it's too much?
I mean, I jokingly curse Mark Russell, but he's a goddamn genius.
So fantastic.
Yeah, I did a couple drinks in, go up to him at the bar and say, "Way to kick our ass, Russell." I think he also didn't know who I was. Was not aware that he had kicked my ass.
Which book of his did he win for?
He won for Not All Robots.
Okay, I read that book. Great book.
Yeah, a funny satirical sci-fi thing with a world full of robots. I am really psyched. I have gotten really into Josie Campbell. Do you know the writer Josie Campbell?
No.
I don't. Please tell us.
She does a great series called I Heart Skull Crusher, which is...
I do know that book. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't know the creator's name.
And she's the also the kind of like showrunner of the My Adventures with Superman anime.
Which I think is a fantastic show.
Did you
it's awesome.
Did you do Shazam, or am I wrong on that?
She is. She took over Shazam from Mark Waid.
Okay, because
cool.
Because someone said,
speaking of legends, Mark Waid, man,
wow.
I would flip if I was ever near him. He's one of the best.
Mark Waid, it's so interesting. I do feel like, there are these certain things that are happening right now, in a time where entertainment is in a weird zone. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that are being embraced by the right people. Like, I do think that there's a comeback. Like, the fact that Ed Brubaker right now is being able to shoot Criminal is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Right? And we're in this world where, like, things are being done right. I listened to our friends over in the Blank Check podcast. They're doing a whole series on Martin Brest, who I love as a director, directed Midnight Run and Beverly Hills Cop.
Absolutely fantastic.
And they had on the directors of Bad Boys 3 and 4. And it was so interesting to hear them talk about Beverly Hills Cop, because they are very much, they came up as like Bruckheimer fans, and they wanted to make like a Bruckheimer-esque movie. I think that's why Bad Boys 3 and 4 actually work really well, because it really captures the vibe and the spirit of what those movies were. And I feel like we're in this interesting zone right now where as kids, we might have been a lot more disappointed by people taking over things that we love, but now people that equally love it for the right reasons are able to take it over and actually make another good version of it.
I know what you mean. And what's interesting about it, though, which is so funny, and when I think about it, it's like, I love that. And I listened to that episode too, and I thought it was fantastic. They are also the directors of the shelved Batgirl movie.
Right.
Which is, I mean, at some point, someday, I'm hoping we'll all get to see, probably together in some random theater that someone has rented out and is showing. But there is something about it too that, and I find this in the Star Wars discourse as well, which is, boy, aren't all these smart people, Leslie Headland, these guys that you're talking about, aren't all these smart people making great Star Wars that's, for me, a 51-year-old man.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, hang on a second. I think the flaw in the logic is that all these people are doing great things for like me to receive. And I'm like, I want, and I assume it is, I want it to work too for like the me's that are now 12 and 13 and 14. I want them to be hyped on all this stuff.
But I think that it actually does work, because I think what there isn't a true, like, I do think the reason why Bad Boys was like a hit at the box office was because they just leaned into making something good that they want. It wasn't like, how do we appeal to this audience? It's like, no, let's just make this movie our way and then it will work. I don't know. There's a weird... I thought Bad Boys 3 was a blast. So I'm excited for 4.
And
that's where I'm like,
the same directors.
Same directors. And you're right. Like, but they are, if this is their way in and they get to go do this stuff, it's like there's I think a good rite of passage. Anyway, I'm excited about some of this stuff that is coming out.
I was going to say, the thing that's interesting to me that ties back, Jordan, what you're talking about a little bit is comics and comics characters, especially ongoing comics characters. You can have impactful runs by multiple different authors, multiple different interpretations of these characters. Your Frank Miller Batman is not the same as your Tom King Batman, is not the same as your Scott Snyder Batman. You can
Jason Aaron's made Thor palatable to me. I never really loved Thor until Jason Aaron's got in there.
But then you go back and you read Walt Simonson stuff and you're like, oh, this is also super interesting, but it's not as immersive. You are really in Norse mythology.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, it's so great to have different flavors of these characters, right? Because I think we're just in a zone where people are going to be making a lot of IP stuff. I think it's just kind of how things are, and it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, but the fact that we get to have so many different flavors of Batman is really cool. And if you're, not into the Paul Dini animated style Batman, you've got another Battinson movie coming, if that's your thing. So yeah.
By the way, I have to say, I just lived out my own personal childhood by being in the new Batman animated series done by Bruce Timm, which was
cool.
One of the coolest things of all time, because
can you say who you were?
I can't.
That's okay.
Don't think yet. I don't think I can. Awesome. I will tell you as soon as this ends. It's a fun part. But it's not.
I don't think Paul can say it. I can say he's Batman.
Yes. Hey, put that down. And that's a scene.
This glue is making me high.
and that's his Bruce Wayne voice. Wait till you hear the Batman voice is deeper.
Put it down.
It's just like
Paul Scheer is the sexiest Catwoman ever.
But there's something right now where there's a couple of things that have come out that have excited me in a way where I have not felt let down, and I'm not used to that feeling. It's whether it is in the comic world, whether it's in it's just oh, these are things that I want to be good. And I remember watching Sex and the City 2 with June, who was so excited to see it because she loves Sex and the City 1, and it wasn't very good. And the look on her face of seeing this thing that she loved being bad, and I'm now you get it. Now you get what my life.
Get the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, you get what my life is. Getting so pumped for this. I was talking to friends.
It is weird that Jar Jar replaced Samantha, though. It was a weird move.
Misa. Misa horny.
I think it would be like Misa honey.
Oh man.
I have a question for you, Jordan.
Yeah.
Just because your comic exists in that kind of horror, coming of age horror story. Are there other things that were either influential on you or things that I know you talked about some of the mixes and stuff like that? Anything else, like we talked about Buffy? Is there anything else either in comics or other media stuff that you felt like what informed the book?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about Shaun of the Dead a lot while I was writing.
Oh, cool. Great tone.
And Shaun of the Dead is the funny stuff is so funny, but the horror stuff is real, right? That movie is very scary and really gory, and it works as a horror movie. If there's no laughs in that movie, the horror stuff works. And I thought about that a lot. I'm I don't want this to seem like a spoof, hey, do I like a scary movie starring the Wayans? Sure, absolutely. I will.
No, but there have to be stakes.
Yeah. So I think I kind of resisted the urge to do spoofy stuff where I'm spoofy because it's a lot about exorcisms, right? And I'm
right.
There's a lot of space ballsy, scary movie type jokes you can make about exorcisms, but I kind of roped in that instinct and just let's keep the horror stuff real, but make the comedy come from the characters because they're just goofy weirdos and they're, clashing in different ways. And I'm like, let's try and make that the source of the comedy.
I think that honestly what you're talking about too is this thing, why we love movies or TV shows first to a certain extent is a great ensemble. I think you're seeing that with Bear. I think you can see that all the way back to the movies that we love growing up. And what is so interesting about it is when you look at a great ensemble, you can look at them and go, all these people are very different. I think for a long period, we had people who looked identical. And it was like, here's a young guy, here's a young guy, here, like a bunch of young white guys that all look about, like, I'm like, but you're the nerd? You're the nerd? You don't look like a nerd. You're just wearing a shirt that, is like a Green Lantern shirt. But, we're supposed to believe that that's the nerd. And I recently watched Independence Day to get ready for the holiday, because I have to learn.
You got to prepare. You got to prepare.
And I
you got to remember what we're fighting for.
And I didn't love that movie like a lot when I saw it the first time, and I rewatched it. It's like, oh, wow, this is so fun. And part of the reason why it's so fun is because you have Harvey Fierstein in it. And you're like, oh, you would never see that casting now. You would never be like, oh, we'll get Harvey Fierstein in there. We'll get Jeff Goldblum in there.
Judd Hirsch is an action star in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. I just think it's important to embrace ensemble. And
we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore. I think about this all the time. Like a lot of times our big action ensembles used to be a group of people, a couple of leading men, types, and then a couple of character actors, a couple of comedians, and that's the ensemble. Comedians die first, character actors next, and the leading men survive. And now every ensemble is wall-to-wall hunks.
Yeah.
Everybody, from the Joker to the romantic lead, everybody is absolutely handsome and fit. And my example is always the Triple Frontier movie. Where it's Affleck and Oscar Isaac and Garrett Hedlund and
that's exactly,
Charlie Hunnam, and every single group member of the team is a brooding hunk. And I'm like, this doesn't happen this way.
Well, I am a fan of this book. If you are a fan of great books, you're a fan of I would say, I don't want to just say it's a supernatural book. I think what it is it is a personal book that is based in something that is from your life, but then also amped up in a way that I think is incredibly unique. I think that's the thing, that's the secret sauce of this. And, this is the year that I feel like you got to fucking take down, was it Mark Wade? No, who are you taking down?
Mark Russell.
Mark Russell, yeah, Mark Russell.
He'll have to fall back on his PBS parody songs. Different Mark Russell. Different Mark Russell. No, yes, yeah. I mean, I'm stoked if people check out the book. I'm so proud of it. It's so nice, and I can't believe it's coming out. I'm so thrilled.
Obviously, people can go and right now buy the book on Amazon. But is there a way that we're always talking about? If you have a local comics shop, please buy the book from your local comics shop.
Yes.
For us, if you want to support my local comic shop, order it from Secret Headquarters. Here in Los Angeles, California. But if you have a small owner-operated comics shop, please go get it there. Order it from there.
I'm a big, because I've been in this world for a little bit with my book. I really recommend to everybody, if you want the ease of use, right? This thing where you're like, I want to support indie shops, but I don't want it to be more complicated than just going to Amazon.
Right.
Bookshop.org is amazing because they can, the book is there. You can order it. But here's the thing. You can support the shop that you want to support. So you can kind of pick it there. It's sort of like, it's a great way to be
shop locally with the convenience of
Amazon,
a web browser.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Everything you said. Yes to all this. Local comic book shop will have it, or they'll order it for you if you ask. And definitely your indie bookstores too. It's a graphic novel, so you can get it at an indie bookstore. And I will be signing a stack of copies at Book Soup here in LA.
Oh, they're great.
I'm going to leave a stack of signed copies at Book Soup. So if you want a signed copy, hit up the Book Soup website and they will mail it right to you.
They're amazing.
Just like an Amazon or other.
They're very easy.
Website.
Oh, well, this is what a blast to talk to you. Welcome back. And if you wouldn't mind, give us that line one more time.
Okay. That line. This glue is making me high.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Morris. Get his book at any indie bookshop. You can get it at comic book shops. It's called Youth Group. You can get yourself an autographed copy at Book Soup, and just support your local stores. It makes a huge difference. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. You're the best.
Thank you again to Jordan Morris. And remember, his new graphic novel, Youth Group, is available in stores now. People, our next movie is one that is going to blow your mind. We're going from the Mexican shore to an underwater grocery store. That's right. Next episode, we are continuing How Did This Get Made's Hot Shark Summer with 2012's Bait. Okay, be aware. There's many films out there called Bait, but this is the one where a freak tsunami traps a group of people in a submerged grocery store. As they try to escape, they are hunted by white sharks that are hungry for meat. Okay, Rotten Tomatoes gives this film a 44% score on the tomato meter, and Jamie Graham from Total Film says Bait is more funny than scary. Well, I don't agree with that. And often feels like Deep Blue Sea meets The Mist. But what's wrong with that? Well, honestly, everything, because what you described there is not what the movie I saw is. Anyway, take a listen to the trailer for Bait.
Where are all the people?
Can't get out that way.
Oh my god. What's that? Where is he, Josh?
Get everyone out of the water.
Out of the water, now! Please help me! Help me!
There's a 12-foot great white shark in here.
Oh, shit!
All right, so remember, people, Bait, 2012. It's a shark movie. Okay, it's not a Jamie Foxx movie. And the original title was Bait 3D. It's available to stream on Amazon Prime Video, Tubi, Freevee Stars. And look, let's get into the library system and rent these things for free. And you can rent them on Hoopla, Canopy, and Libby. They are free digital media services offered by your local public library that allow you to consume movies, TV, music, audiobooks, ebooks, and comics for free. Also, a huge thank you to the ALA for bringing me down to their annual convention. I loved meeting librarians. I loved hearing all about these platforms and how so many people watch How Did This Get Made movies through them. So thank you, librarians. I always have a respect for you, but to see so many of you in one room was just truly unbelievable. I mean, it's the Comic-Con floor, but all librarians. That is it for the show. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate and review us. Please make sure you are following us and have automatic downloads turned on. It helps the show, and we appreciate it. Visit us on social media at HDTGM. And a big thank you to our producers, Scott Sani and Molly Reynolds, our movie-picking producer, Avril Halley, and our associate producer, Jess Cisneros, and our engineer, Casey Holford. We will see you next week for Baked.